Florida and did a whole another residency program. And he'd actually done a complete residency in Turkey and then did this clinical fellowship, and then and then actually done research in our department, and then did a whole second residency. So if you're committed to coming to the United States to do training, you need to spend a long time there and be willing to sacrifice a lot of years of your life. All U.S. neurosurgery residencies are now 7 years long. I know here it's 2 years plus 3, but you have a lot of other training afterwards. Most people in the U.S. are doing fellowships if they want to do an academic type practice after they're finished. Okay, so these true fellowships that give you the ability to train in the U.S. are relatively limited. So I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just sort of giving you an idea of what the reality is in the United States. So when you're in practice, yeah. Well, so the people that have typically matched out of our program have done research in our department probably for 3 to 4 years. I don't know, Mustafa was probably 3 years. Azam?
Yeah, but the length of time is somewhat irrelevant. You know, you just coming and sitting there in someone's lap doesn't do you any good, and it can actually do you harm if you're not productive.
Right. You need to publish.
You have to put ink on paper somehow, and oftentimes that's difficult because you're handed whatever project you're handed, so you have to be resourceful, just like you've gotten to this point. And it's a really an uphill climb for FMGs, and I feel terrible about that. I wish there was an easier access for it, but there just isn't a good mechanism. So really, if you're going to devote the time to come to the U.S. to do that kind of training, you really have to dedicate yourself, work 3 times harder than the next person, just to get a chance. Unfortunately, that's harder than most U.S. citizens. So it's a big commitment. Neurosurgery is a big commitment for your life anyway. You're young, you've got a lot of years to sort of live anyway, so it's easier to sacrifice years now than years down the road. I was too old when I got into medicine, and I was 25 when I started medical school, and by the time I was out of residency, I was in my mid to late 30s. And so I've practiced 22 years now, which sort of tells you how old I am. Almost a fossil. People now refer to Doug and I as those old guys, which is somewhat sad. Anyway. So people also want to talk about shadowing opportunities. And those opportunities come in a variety of things. Whether you want to do a clinical rotation and get, and Amna and I talked about this not too long ago, want to do a clinical rotation and being able to go to certain universities. Well, it turns out that our university, the University of Wisconsin, UW, actually changed their definition of what people can do at our place in the last year. It used to be that you could have people come and observe you. People still can come and observe. The problem when you come and observe in neurosurgery is the university rules now state that you can't go to the operating room as an observer. The way around that is becoming a research fellow and saying that observing in the operating room has something to do with me doing my research. So that's a possibility, but those things are few and far between. And so a year and a half ago, I said, yeah, send me letters, send me emails, I'll do what I can. And it turns out that they changed the rules. So for people that want to do clinical rotations, it's a possibility to do them, but the rules are so restrictive that it's almost impossible now. And a lot of universities are going to this. So for someone to do a clinical rotation at UW, they need to actually be from Wisconsin somehow, or been educated in Wisconsin at some point in their life and have a faculty sponsor. Well, I'm happy to sponsor people, but it's getting that tie to Wisconsin, that having earned an income in Wisconsin or having gone to school in Wisconsin, something like that, that would allow you to participate in our program. So the rules have made it hard. All right, so let's go back to this about what are your options once you finish. All right, and everybody has a variety of ways to do things. So I'm an academic neurosurgeon, meaning that my life is seeing patients, operating on patients, and then doing something academic. And my academic role is actually teaching. This is what I do for my academic part of my career. Is I sort of run around the U.S. and et cetera, teaching people how to do spine surgery. I also have relatively significant roles, I think, in some of our major organizations. I'm now on the executive committee for the AANS,
which I'll do for the next 3 years. And I've been on a lot of executive committees, and I've participated in all sorts of national organizations. So that's my academic thing. And Azam can talk a little bit more about his academic practices and what his typical day is. But I think what happens with people, if you decide to do research as an academician, really your primary job is really taking care of patients. And the research tends to be more on the weekends. And I'll talk later today about doing research. But maybe Azam will share with us what his life is like.
Yeah, so, in addition to operating and doing those types of things.
And just so you know, Azam has a reputation for operating in the middle of the night and on the weekends, in addition to being operating all day. So he's super busy.
So to really be a true academician, you have to do research and also teach. And so the research that I do, I have basic science research as well as clinical research. I'm the co-principal investigator for something called the Wisconsin Stroke Net, which is a National Institute of Health initiative. There's 25 of them only in the country, and the main goal is to try to increase the number of patients enrolled in stroke trials. And so that, as part of that, I'm a principal investigator for 5 different clinical trials. That takes up a fair bit of time, and oversee 5 research staff for clinical trial related endeavors. And then on the basic side, animal research, we have an endovascular lab where we test out new devices in scientific ways to see, for instance, to make aneurysms in canines and rabbits, and also test out devices in small other animals as well. And so that all of those different projects that are going on take different time commitments to do. And so scheduling time and being organized is the real key. That organization is what allows you to succeed on different fronts.
Hey, thanks, Azam. So and I also put jobs like doing research only. Most neurosurgeons go to neurosurgery to practice neurosurgery. I have 2 partners that do very little clinical practice and do mostly research. One in cerebral trauma, and the other one in brain tumors. And it's probably good that they're doing research as opposed to, Azam's here, clinical care. So sort of the mix in private practice is essentially just seeing patients and operating on patients and not doing really anything academic. And that's the majority of people that graduate U.S. residency programs. They don't do academic medicine. And Doug sits sort of in between in what I call privatemic. He's at the Cleveland Clinic, which is really a big private institution, but they do some research. So his roles may not be much different than my role or Azam's role, but I think the attitude might be a little bit different.
Well, my practice, and again, our organization is huge. Cleveland Clinic is our main campus, is a 1,000 bed hospital. We also have 9 other hospitals that we own and operate. And similar to Greg and Azam, I have activities besides clinical activities. My 2 areas are education and administration. I'm actually the chairman of surgery at one of our other hospitals and have administrative roles that way. But within our system, we have people. We have people who are pure hardcore academics, and we have people who are pure hardcore clinical, just doctors. So very different, and also the other is there are different payment models in the United States and worldwide. The extremes are many people are pure fee for service. So you do something for a patient, you get paid for doing that. Then there are in between. Where I work, actually, we are unusual in that we are 100% salary. So I know going into the year how much money. Actually, it's even more bizarre than that. We are 100% salary on 1-year contracts. So every year I get a new contract. Now it's pretty simple. But we don't. I don't have any performance bonuses or anything like that. It's just here's how much money you're making for the year, and they pay all my expenses. So that's a little bit different than and an unusual model in the United States. most places, private practice, most private practices are fee for service, and then there are in between.
Although there's been a move in the U.S. to go to basically hospital-based practices where the hospital pays your salary and they say, here's your job, and it sort of allows you to assume probably a little bit less risk in practice.
I'm just going to add a little bit to what Greg was saying, because I also have I can give another little bit of a perspective in terms of looking at international opportunities for training. I'm Canadian. I did all my training in Canada. I practiced in Canada for 5 years. Canada is a little more flexible than the United States. It is a little bit easier, certainly to do observerships and fellowships in Canada than it is in the United States. It is still very difficult to get residencies in Canada. If for no other reason, then there are now only slightly more residency positions in Canada than there are medical students in the Canadian system. And the projection is over the next few years, there will actually be more medical students graduating in Canada than there are residency positions in Canada, which will really cut off the flow, if you will, of foreign medical graduates being allowed to do residencies in Canada. The exception to that is that some people are able to have their home government provide funding. So if you show up at a Canadian institution with your government providing funding, but as I understand, that's not likely to happen here in this country. But through some of the Arab countries, we do find that happens.
Right, good. Aneel, I don't know if you got any comments about your practice here in Pakistan, because I think it's different than what we're used to. I think that'll be the final comment.
Yours will be the most useful.
Yeah, as usual, Doug and I and Azam are all useless.
Yeah, so I come from a completely different background than all these three gentlemen, right? Because I am one of you guys, right? I graduated from a medical school here, right? And then I decided to do neurosurgery in US. So I was like one of you guys sitting, many years ago, deciding to do that. So yes, it is difficult, right? But it is not impossible, right? So I know from the Ahan Medical School, almost every 2 years or so, there is one person who actually matches for neurosurgery in the US, right? If that's what your goal is, right? Your goal should not be, to be honest, to do neurosurgery in the US, because I meet a lot of medical students and they all come and they ask me the same question. Ma'am, how can I do neurosurgery in the US? Your goal should be that I want to do neurosurgery, that's it, period, right? Wherever you can. There are many opportunities. Yes, US is number one, right? People actually go to Singapore. One of my interns actually matched in a neurosurgical program in Singapore. There's a lady I know who actually was from here and matched in a neurosurgical program in Dubai. So there are many other, there's a person I know who actually went to Australia, although Australia is like a Canadian system, so there are fewer residency slots as compared to the medical students. And it's a bit difficult, but it did happen, right? And of course, do not forget that Pakistan is always available for neurosurgery, right? We have fantastic programs here. We have a program in Liaquat National Hospital that's a good neurosurgical program. We have a program in Khan University that is a properly structured neurosurgical program with proper fellowship training, right? So, if you really want to do neurosurgery, it is possible, and please do not rule the options of Pakistan out, okay?
You have the clinical material.
Yes,
it's the same diseases that you see all over the place. And we always talk about neurosurgery residencies always being what you make of it. And so my residency program was actually very weak. It was a bunch of guys that had grown old in neurosurgery, and it sort of lost interest and all those other things. And so I did a fellowship year after it, and it sort of made myself up to be the neurosurgeon that I wanted to be. And so it's sort of the same opportunities that you have here. You have the same clinical material, you develop the same skills, just a matter of how you use it and how you develop
And the other thing is that, especially in big cities like Karachi, where you actually get your catchment area is not just Karachi. Your catchment area is countries. People come from Dubai, people come from Saudi Arabia, people come from Iran. Entire Pakistan comes to Karachi to get, neurosurgery done. So the pie is huge, if you say so, in Karachi per se. Okay, so like in the US, right? There will be, if you're in a big city, there'll be many major hospitals around, right? But here, I mean, there's only few of them. So you get like really the choicest of choice of cases if you really want to do, if you want to excel in spine or if you want to excel in tumor or whatever it is, right? So that's why I really want to encourage people to think about neurosurgery in Pakistan, okay? Because I have come back from US, I have been practicing there, and I had come back from US, and I feel that the neurosurgery program here is equally good, equally competent, and equally structured that it is in US. Okay, so at least please keep that in mind for everybody.
It's in your education structure. It's important to come to conferences like this because you'll see that maybe we have a little different opinion about certain things, a different approach than some of the people may have here. It's just, and you should always just sort of take that away with every meeting or every conference you go to. That things can be done differently, and you sort of adopt and adapt what you want to use and get rid of the things that you don't want to. So you take the opportunity to be a leader.
Yeah, exactly. So you can go to all these conferences anywhere in the world and take different kind of courses. As Gary mentioned, and keep on building up your professional development skills. As far as the fee structure over here is involved, so Aga Khan Hospital is like a private academic hospital. So we do have a base salary for the academic work we do, and our academic work involves, of course, teaching the neurosurgery residents, teaching the medical students, both the postgraduate and undergraduate part of it, as well as the research and the administrative work that comes with it, right? And we get a very small base salary for that. And most of the bulk actually comes from fee for service. So fee for service is that if you see one patient, you will bill for that patient, right? So it is a model of private and academic both together. And that's how we bill. But that is only Aga Khan, right? Most of the institutions in Pakistan are actually private hospitals. So it is purely fee for service that happens in Pakistan over here. Until unless you are in a government hospital, like Civil Hospital, Jinnah Hospital, or Lahore General Hospital, like that, then you only get the salary that is commissioned to you by the government. Okay, and that, of course, as you know, is very meager amount of money. Yeah.
How does research do opportunities?
I think some of you guys have answered that question, right?
Well, I'm going to talk about how to do research later on. So if we don't cover it, we can certainly cover it. I'm sort of hijacking this whole session again. But the issue about research is the quality of research. Right? Did you just publish something because you want to publish something? Was it something worthy of being researched? Does it make a difference in the field? Does it have an impact on how patients are taken care of? Does it translate to clinical care? So the research has to be quality research. It just can't be garbage, which is what so many people do.
And again, just doing research alone will not help you secure a position of residency in the US. It is much more than that. I'm just going to tell my experience, right? I not only had to do research, but I had to do an extra year of, it's called a pre-residency neurosurgical position, which is just a 1-year position with no contracts. You can do it and you may not get into a residency program after that. So don't think that if you do good research, you'll just be able to get it. It's more than that. Because remember, at least for St. Louis, I remember that for one position per year, we had 300 applicants. And I'm sure in Cleveland or in Wisconsin is sort of a similar position. So you are really competing against a very high volume. And again, neurosurgery is usually taken up by the cream of the class, is usually the top 1 to 2% of the American class that would actually choose to do neurosurgery. So you are really competing against, creme de la creme kind of situation.
We interview
over 50 people for 2 positions, and that's honed and winnowed down from probably 350 applicants. So there's a lot of people that apply, and maybe not 350, maybe 300, but a lot of people apply, and our screening process is, you know, if you're in the top 5%, you're probably going to get an interview. If you're below that percentage, then we go through your whole application and see if there's some redeeming quality that you have, something that's really special, and those people get interviews. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Munahid Jafri, and I'm a graduate from Ziauddin University from Pakistan. And I've done a few, I've been a sub-I at WashU, and I've done research, which is not published though. So does that hold,
Does it have potential to be published?
I don't know yet.
Right.
It's in the process.
So it's, whenever we look at resident applicants, we look at a whole bunch of things, both your academic qualifications, and then we look, did you do research? Did you do something else that shows that you're service oriented, almost like anything. But we spend, because we're an academic institution, we're interested in people that publish papers. Sort of. Some of us don't really care about it much. The chairman's a big academic guy, so he's really interested in doing research. But when you get an interview with us, I'm just looking for someone I can put up with for a second.
There you go. Also in the U.S., there are different types of residency programs. Greg and Asim are obviously from a university-based residency program. There are also hospital-based residency programs, smaller programs, less academically driven, and those are also potential options within the United States system. The major academic medical centers, incredibly competitive to get into their residency programs. Some of the lesser non-academic programs in smaller centers are less competitive.
I think what you're trying to give Asim this chance to do is talk about what's new.
Yeah.
I'll just say one last thing. You know, this is going to what Aneel was just saying about wanting to do neurosurgery. And I think the key thing is that you enjoy doing neurosurgery, because if you don't, your life will be miserable. It's a painful number of hours you put in. You're away from your family for a fair bit of it. So you really have to enjoy what you're doing. And speaking to training in Pakistan, I didn't do any training in Pakistan, but I can tell you that when I go to international conferences and I show my cases, if I showed in an international conference, it doesn't make any impact, to be honest with you. And because the patients present relatively early to care in the US, and internationally, oftentimes patients present late. They're coming in with tumors 3 times the size, that I show. And so if you're doing it for the love of the field, there's no question that it's hard to compete from the quality of the cases that you have here. In Pakistan, I'm sure on average it's much better than the quality of the cases in the US. I'm sure there's other frustrations regarding the systems of care and things like that, but if you're in it for the right reasons, this is a wonderful training, I'm sure.
The last thing I'll add while Asim's going up to give his talk, everything you've just heard, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a neurosurgeon, even though my appointment is in the Department of Neurosurgery at the Cleveland Clinic. My training is orthopedic surgery, but everything you just heard applies equally to orthopedic surgery. If you're passionate about it, do it. Find a way to do it. If you're not passionate about it, don't go into it, because you will hate yourself because of the workload that you'll have to do.
There's a lot of sacrifices. Yeah.
So what are the different ways in which you can stand out? Different things we can do.
So what's it, academic requirements, research, service. And the U.S. is hung up on us about diversity too. So you guys are easy, because you represent, you come from a different background than most U.S. graduates. So that's a really awesome.
I mean, really the same things that you would find, that the same things that the programs are looking for here. people have become physicians, hopefully, because they care about their common countrymen or human being, right? So if you haven't done much in the way of service or tried to even do something in that order, I mean, how can you say that you're there to better humanity? You know, so it's got to be for the right reasons, and then research is a secondary component of it. That you make sure you're doing this all for the right reasons, and then
One last thing I'd say in terms of making yourself stand out, and I give this advice to American medical students as well. Go to a place you're interested in working and work. And one of the things that is very common is that medical students will figure that, okay, I've really got to, you know, get myself in front of the attending, make the attending, you know, the staff person, really impress myself there. Actually, the people you really need to impress with your work ethic are the residents on the service. At our place, when the final decision is made, 2 out of the 5 members on the committee that make the final decision are residents. And if the residents don't like you, you won't get a position.
Sorry, I'm just going to add something in the end.
Be involved in neurosurgery though too. It's like you're getting in medical school, be involved in patient care. But for neurosurgery, be involved in that field, so you demonstrate the fact that you know what you're going to use.
So,
The worst thing is not being able to figure out that it's a long way down the road. And you're doing this thing.
so you know, I'm just going to add that, you know, while you are here in Pakistan, okay, go to civil hospital, go to Jinnah hospital, go to the emergency room, see how neurosurgery is practiced right here. You will learn so much out of here that once when you go back there, and if you're trying to impress somebody over there, it will come easy to you because you understand neurosurgery then. So this is my you know, advice that, you know, instead of, if you, for example, there are a lot of medical students who come and say that I cannot get an elective there. What do? They just sit here and wait. Okay, don't sit here and wait. Okay, go to the neurosurgical institute just around you and start learning neurosurgery. You know, and by the time your time comes to go there, you'll already be like, you know, you would know neurosurgery so much that it's not hard to impress anybody then. Okay.
Alrighty, so I hijacked it. Okay, you know, one last question because we're sort of about 45 minutes behind here.
Change present. Has it restricted your choices for picking up medical specialty?
It hasn't affected us yet because the travel ban was, the ban on the travel ban was basically upheld by the courts, the 3-0 ruling. So I think there's.
We have no idea what's going to happen in the next 4 years.
Yeah, politics or the 2 years or as long as he lasts.
That no matter what we do, how much we expect to, you guys will apply to a
Right. So I don't know what's going to happen. Pakistan's not on the list. I mean, well, I don't. You know, I don't. Yeah, don't get me going on politics. I watch a lot of political TV, and I have many comments about politics and the current state of affairs. So we could talk about it offline, but otherwise I'll be. Otherwise I'll
might not be allowed back in the country.
Yeah, I might not be let back in the U.S. You still have an option. Yep. Nothing has changed. Right now, everybody that has a visa can get in. Everybody that has whatever rights of passage to the U.S. still has it. And the American way is to accept people of other societies and other cultures and to be tolerant of them, both from a religious standpoint, from a national orientation, from a sexual orientation, everything. The U.S. should be an open, accepting country. That's what it was founded on.
I just have a really quick question for Doug. I want to ask, why aren't there as many residency positions in Canada? And why doesn't Canada adopt the steps? Why do you guys have a different system?
So what's happened in Canada, there's because of Canada is a government-run system, the government controls how many residency positions there are. They know that specialists cost the system more than general practitioners. So currently, there are, for every specialty, there is one general practice position. So 50% of all postgraduate trainings are general practice. And the more expensive your specialty is, the fewer positions there are in it. And essentially it's a way the government is using to control costs.
And it's the same thing that goes for Australia too.
Yes, basically. The Australian system's pretty much.
It is. I actually did my fellowship over there, so it's exactly the same system. Like
And the US is also limited by government sponsorship of residency positions. So even though we've gotten the resident work hour restrictions, we still don't have any more residency positions because the government essentially funds a lot of residency spots. So until the government decides to expand residency positions, it just isn't gonna happen. All right, I'm sorry for hijacking this, Ozzy.
No, it's fine. If you guys have more questions, I mean, it's probably more important than what I'm gonna say.
But we can always talk offline. We're here for a couple more days. Feel free to come up to any of us. We're all approachable. We're not as mean as we look.
Can we get an applause for them, please?